Hello people! Today we're on our first set of Christmas nails of the season, and here we go. I'm using a prep set of medium length coffin tips for this. I will tell you up front that this set took me about 4 hours to do, so you can have a reference. Now there was some trial and error going on, so could probably shave off some of that a little bit, but not that much. We're going to start off with the red nails, and I've already slopped it all over my gloves. See, that's why I wear gloves. Well, partly why. Because I get a little bit of this gel product on my hands and I just break out in a bad itchy rash. And there's more sloppage apparently. Okay, I've done the thumb, the middle finger, and the pinky with the red. And then I am going in with, well, no, wait, there was something. There's a fluff or something on that one. Okay, moving on. Then I'm going to use the Venalisa Mud Gel. Now this particular color, you're not going to see this when we're done, but I needed a color that was kind of like a gold that I could use to put underneath my gold chrome, and also the glitter placement nail with the gold and red stripes. This is the color I put underneath that. So basically you're just not going to see it, but it needs to have some color under there just in case there's you know, little tiny slivers where you can see through it. Right now it looks like we got mustard and ketchup going here. And we're just going to need one coat of this on these two. That would be the index finger and ring finger. Now I've cured those. I'm going in with the second coat, and I'm only putting that on the thumb and the middle finger, as the pinky is going to be getting chromed, so we won't need another coat on there. Now mind when you're working with red like this, and I know this particular one I have problems with, so I have to make really sure I keep my coats nice and thin, as it likes to wrinkle. Okay, now I'm going in here with a no wipe top coat. I used my tempered top coat, and what I found out was the tempered top coat, the chrome does not like to stick to it. So I had to go over some of these again with a regular no wipe top coat. And that was the red one, and now we're going to put some on the gold one, I think. You can see I've got a mess there already from where I had tried it before. Once I get my top coat on, and I want it to be nice and smooth, we don't want to have any little bumps or things on there. We'll give those a cure. And then I will move on. I believe I've already done this one, so we're ready to go with the chrome. Now this one was like partially chromed already from where I had issues with the other top coat, so just ignore that part. Also, since I was already gloved up, I just went ahead and used my gloves, but I wasn't real happy with the finish of these, as I get a much better and smoother chrome finish when I just use my bare fingers, as opposed to trying to do it with the glove or the little rubber, like this little rubber kind of squeegee thing. I mean, you can do it, obviously, as I'm doing it, but I like to do it with a bare finger on the chrome. It just seems to come out smoother and better for me. But we've got the gold one done. Now this gold is kind of a little bit of a hollow gold. And now we've got those red ones that have cured, and I will go ahead and do the red one on the pinky. I'm just going to dot some of it on there, and I will rub it in. And I know I've gone over this before, but the more you rub it, usually the shinier and smoother you can get it. But I was not having the best time with having to do it with gloves on, as I said. It's a little bit not quite as smooth and nice as I would like it. But in the long run, especially on these pinkies, you're not going to see that much of it, so it won't be that big a deal. Okay, so now we have got those chromed up. I will do the other ones off camera, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Eventually, when I'm happy with this. I was trying to get a smooth spot on my glove where it wasn't wrinkly, where I could get a good, surface for rubbing there, but okay, moving on to the next step. Now I've got this gold leaf that's red on one side and gold on the other. We're going to use some of this. Actually, we're going to use quite a lot of it. I'm just going to take a couple of tweezers and just kind of bust it up as good as I can. Get some smaller bits in here. Kind of like making a tossed salad here. Plus it's all staticky, so it kept sticking to everything. I couldn't get it off the tweezer. Wanted to be sticking to my gloves later, and then the sides of the tray I used. Anyway, moving on. Okay, we're going to do this on all the red nails. We're going to go in with a layer of base coat. This could be just a thin layer. You don't need a whole lot. And then, we don't cure it yet. We're going to put the leaf on there. Now I've just got this old little brush that I used kind of for this. You just drop it on there, and if you just take the brush and kind of pat it down on top of it, it will cause it to break up into smaller bits. If you get too much squiddy stuff on your brush, just give it a wipe off. I went a little crazy with this on here because I was just liking how it looked. I'm just going to break up all these little bits into smaller pieces and then kind of make sure I've got coverage on the whole thing as to where I want them. Okay, and we're going to move on. Obviously, I've sped I've sped quite a bit of this video up because a lot of the things I did were extra time consuming. I'm trying to get my videos to be a little shorter for you guys, and now I'm not even in the shot. But basically, we're just going to do the same thing on here. Oh, that was a pretty big piece. You can start with a real big piece like that on there if you just put it on there, but you can just dab it around with the brush and it will bust it all up. But I like to break it up somewhat before I get it on there. Now, since we have not cured the base coat, you can move those bits and pieces around as much as you want. I kind of gave it a final look over before I put the nail aside to see if there was anything sticking up, and if there was, I kind of patted it down. That'll create less work later for filing and buffing if you get them as flat as possible now. And on to the pinky that we had chrome. Now this is what I'm saying, that you're really not going to see much of this chrome. See, that was a pretty big piece I just put on there. And I'm just going to bust it all up now. The last set where I used gold leaf, I only used the tiniest little bit on there. This one I kind of went crazy with it. And we're done with that. And now we're going to put those into cure. And they have cured and are back out. This one I'm also going on with base coat. We're going to do the poinsettias on here. And there's a little bit of a blemish at the top of this one. So that's where I'm going to put the first one. I'm going to cover that up. These are just chunky glitters, diamond shape. Doing the red ones, we're going to make poinsettias out of these. Now, pay attention when I put these on, and you'll see that they have kind of a mind of their own on top of the base coat. They kind of want to float and move around however they want. So you're constantly having to keep fixing them and moving them. And that will be a factor when we get to the gold and red striped glitter placement nail. So you'll see these ones right here are not real bad, but when I get to the one on the side edge, it really had a problem. And I think there was a lot of base coat that had run down to the side of the nails, so it had a thicker like puddle of it, which was giving the little glitters more of a surface to float around on. They do kind of have a mind of their own and like to keep moving around on you. There. Now watch that one on the left. It's going to keep moving. I'm going to straighten it out, and it's just going to keep moving back. Now, between when I got these, how I thought I wanted them, and then, see, look, it moved again. In the time it took me to straighten this out and then quickly put it in the lamp, it moved again. So at the finished nail, it's going to be all askew again. See, it's already moved over there. That one particular one just would not stay put. It just wanted to keep floating around. Once you get them where you want them and you're happy with them, then it's going to be time to throw that in the lamp and cure it. So they will be stuck in place. And there's that one rogue one again. Okay, in we go. Okay, we're moving on to the time-consuming glitter placement. Now I'm going to put a very thin layer of foil glue on here. And this is going to eliminate that problem where the glitters are moving around. Now we're only going to be able to do this. I'm going to cure that. We're only going to be able to do that down the center of the nail with like a few rows down the center. When I get to the sides, we're going to have to switch back to base coat. See, I can put those on there now, and they're firmly on there. They're not going to move very much, which was a bit of an issue too, because if you don't get them placed perfectly, which I don't on a lot of them, then you have to spend time trying to move them around, and you have to put a little elbow grease on it to get them to move because they're stuck in that foil glue, and you guys know how tacky that stuff is. But this was my solution to keeping them from constantly moving around on me. And the reason I didn't continue down the side edges is because from handling this and pressing on it in order to move those when I needed to, it was not wanting to stay stuck on the nail stand, and I was having issues. Now this portion here I have sped up to 4 times the normal amount because it did take me quite a while to do this. And this is by far the longest process of this whole set. And also I have found when doing these stripe ones like this, instead of going across from the top in rows going side to side, I find it's much easier and more accurate for me to put a stripe right down the center and then work off of either side of it. Because if you go across the top and you're going back and forth, it's real easy to get your pieces out of alignment, and by the time you get part way down the nail, they're not matching up anymore, and then it starts to look wonky and it just doesn't look as nice. So this was my solution for keeping my rows nice and straight and on there. Now don't worry about these ones that are sticking off the ends or the edges. We're just going to leave those for now. We'll deal with those later. But I've got my red stripe down the middle, as you saw. Now I'm doing one gold on either side, and then it will go red. Again, I don't know if I go back and forth to both sides on this part or if I just stuck to the one side now. I forget now, but we'll see. Let's see, you really have to kind of press on them to get them to move if you don't get them just right in this exact spot you want them. This actually is the one I did this is the second one because I had a lot of issues with the first one not staying on the nail stand and just went back and forth and became a mess. So thought I would show you guys one where everything went fairly smooth. I mean, nothing ever goes really smooth for me when I'm doing stuff, but if I can get something to go fairly well, then that's what we'll do. And it's just a matter of getting your pieces placed on there where you want them, stick them down, and move on. Now the reason we're going to be switching to base coat here in a bit on the side edges is because in order for me to move those around and press them and do that, the other edge of the nail is pressing against my finger or my glove over there, and then this side sometimes I have to get a hold on to that. So your stickiness from the foil glue is not as sticky as it was at the beginning because I've touched it too many times, which is partly why I've switched to the base coat here pretty quick. I'm going to do that because it wasn't sticky. They weren't sticking on very well now, and beside the fact I couldn't press on the nail stand very hard because it wanted to come off all the time. So now we're going to switch to base coat. There's not too many here, so I'm just going to put it on one side for now. Now these will go on a lot quicker using the base coat, but they are going to move around still. So you just have to kind of keep an eye on them, keep putting them where you want them. And once I get this row on and I start on the next row down, that will help hold this row in place. So usually you're only having to keep adjusting the row you're working on, not the previous ones, unless you really bump them. And then, like if you bumped them with that pointy thing, that tool, then, yeah, you could get them all out of whack again. But you'll notice I'm adjusting as we go. You just want them to lay flush next to each other. And now, of course, I'm out of shot. And this is where also, when you get real close to the edge over here, things start to get a little dicey too. As you're not going to get, as you go down the nail, you're not going to, a whole one of those is not going to fit on there very well. You're going to end up with a bit hanging over the side. Just leave them for now. We'll deal with that later on. Okay, now that whole side is pretty much done. I'm just going to finish that end off. Now that is going to go in to be cured, and it's cured. Now we're going to finish off this other side. We're going to do the same thing down this side now. I hadn't done one of these in a while, so I thought I would do another one. I know you guys have seen me do this on a Halloween, well, you didn't see me do the whole Halloween set, but I needed to do a replacement nail for that set, and it happened to be one of these, which I did. So there's another video that just has that on it, and that's it. Somewhere back in the video log there. But we're just going to carry on. I want to say probably took me about a half an hour to do just this one nail. So that's where a huge portion of the time goes into this set. There's some other designs that I've got saved that use these diamond shaped glitters and placement besides doing the stripes and whatnot. I just haven't gotten around to doing any of those yet, but may give that a try at some point. And we're getting down to the dicey edge over here. And then is that the one? No, that's not the one. Once I'm happy with these, we will go in and cure the rest of that. And we have done that now, I believe. And now I'm going in with a hefty layer of base coat. I'm going to do that on all of them, and that's going to help smooth them out. Now when you're doing the base coat on this one, make sure you get a good amount all around the edges and the top and bottom, because when we clip those off, we need them to be sturdy and have a good, have a good layer on there. Otherwise they pop off easily. And then of course I had issues with my base coat wanting to bead up on where the glitters are and not lay smoothly again. So that was another deal. I don't know if you could see them on the camera when they start to separate, but that's why you see me going over them and over them and over them. Once I'm happy, I'll cure those, and now they're back. Now we're going to clean these edges off. I'm just going to use my nippers. And when I get a proper grip on here so that you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to just nip the ends of these off as close as I can to the edge of the nail. Now, they don't have to be perfect. You want to kind of do this a little carefully because you don't want to pull them off. But having that layer of base on there helps give them a little more body and makes them a little easier to clip, I think, anyway. But we're going to do, we've done that. We're going to do this bottom edge. And then we're going to clean the sides up a little. Now don't worry that there's still some more, it's still sticking out a little bit. Don't worry about that yet. We just want to get the big bulk of any of the stuff that's sticking up out of there. It didn't help that my nippers were not wanting to cut either. These are the old yucky ones that I already ruined by taking rhinestones off of my own nails. So now I have, these are my crappy ones I use for stuff like this, and I have a good pair that I use on my cuticles. Hey, we got one more side edge to do. This is where you got to be careful too, because when you're doing these side edges, since there's only a portion of it actually attached to the nail, it's really easy to pop those off again. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, see, there goes one there. So what I will need to do is, it's not going to stick on there, so why I'm sticking it on like that, I don't know. What I'm going to do is have to put a teeny tiny bit of base coat back on there, and I'm going to attempt to cut that gold one in half. Sometimes I can do it, sometimes I don't have a lot of luck doing it. Sometimes within the glitters themselves, there will be some pieces, parts of them that are already just like a partial one, where you can grab some of those and use them if you need them. I did manage to cut it in half, it's just not cooperating now. Now we're going to use that half and stick that back on to that spot that it came out of, but now it's only a half, so it shouldn't need any more cut off. See that? Nice and neatly. Of course, why I didn't put the base on there first, I don't know. It's been a crazy week here again. Next week's going to be worse. Thanksgiving in there. We're doing Thanksgiving in our house this year. So a cleaning frenzy is about to happen this weekend. Okay, I'll get that back on. Then I'm going to cure that before we move on. But once it is cured, I still have to nip off those other ones over there, which you can't now see anyway. Okay, I think that's pretty good for now. I think, did it come off again? No, there's another little area right there where I've knocked something off. And I will use the other half of that one that I cut. And it will go right in there. If it will cooperate. Okay, I think we're good now. Alright, we're going to cure that. In we go with that. And that's back out. Now we are going to go in with a hefty layer of top coat. And now I'm back to the tempered top coat again now. I'm going to do a really good thick layer of this. Especially on this, I guess I'll call it a harlequin nail. Because when we do filing and buffing, I don't want to file through any of those glitters, because if you do, then you're going to have silver in there and it's just not going to look nice. And the last one over there. Now the ones with the leaf on them, I did file and buff them just slightly, but they really didn't need it that much. I mean, hardly at all, because they were pretty well smoothed out. But here we're having separation issues again with the top coat on, not wanting to lay on there. Once I'm happy with it, we'll set that into cure. See, I don't think you can see it on camera, but it just wants to separate. It's like it beads up on top of there. And in we go. Oh, first I'm going to hold it upside down since I did put a hefty layer on there. And still I got to go over it again. Smooth it out. Okay, now that's been cured finally. So now we're going to go, I'm going to take my hard file. And I'm just going to show you filing and buffing this particular one. But we're going to go around all the edges with the hard file. Clean off any of that stuff that's hanging over the edge at this point. Take it off of here. Now, I had used a nail tab to hold that one onto the nail stand because it seemed to work a little better than that normal tacky stuff I usually use. But I'm just going to go along these edges and we're going to smooth off all those little bits that are still hanging over. Surprisingly, I did not end up filing through my gloves like I usually do when I have to do filing. And I will give it a quick buff. It really didn't need much buffing, but I just was going to go over it anyway, make sure everything's smooth. And as I said, we don't want to buff too much because I don't want to get through the glitter. The rest of them I'll do off camera, but I did slightly buff the rest. And there you have it. Okay, Now I'm going to give them a wipe down with some alcohol and a lint-free wipe to get the dust off. And then we are going in with the final top coat. We're not done with the set yet, but we got to get the top coat on now. And this is just a regular layer top coat. You don't have to put it on real thick. This is a regular old layer like you normally would do it. And hopefully, since we buffed, it should not have an issue with the separating off of those glitter pieces. I think for the most part it was okay. I think maybe there was a little bit I ended up going over again, but for the most part it seemed to be okay at that point. So that will be ready to cure. And now we're going to move on to the centers of these poinsettias. I'm just using my top coat. Now the dots that I put on here were way too big, and my centers came out really big and sloppy, which I'm not happy with. At that point it was a little too late for me to do anything. I'm going to use a fine gold glitter, and I'm just going to sprinkle that on to those dots we just put on there. I think had I gone with a much smaller dot of top coat, it would have looked a lot better, because once I get the glitter on it, it kind of mashed it down and spread it out a lot more than I wanted. And I didn't realize how bad it was until after I had cured it, and at that point it's just too late. But we're just going to sprinkle that on until we get it on there really well. We'll tap off the excess and into cure. Now we'll give that a longer cure. We'll give that a 2-minute cure so it can get cured all the way through. Because the glitter's on, and then we will just brush it off. And there we go. And then I will clean that glitter mess up, and we'll be moving on to the final step, which is going to be the bows. I'm going to make bows with this tiny little acrylic mold, and I will be using the same red I used on the nail. Now this particular red really took an extra long time to cure. Normally, once I get the mold set, get my stuff in it, I usually do it 90 seconds face up, and then I flip it over and do 90 seconds face down, and then stuff's generally cured and ready to go. But this particular red polish takes longer to cure, so I had to keep putting it back in face up probably like 3 times. So it probably had an extra like maybe 4 minutes of curing time. And even then it may not have been fully cured in the middle. But I want to just clean up any of the excess by brushing it back towards the center. And once I get this cleaned up, I'm just using some alcohol on there. It will go in. And in we go. No, we don't. I decided it needed a little bit more down its bottom part. Okay, now I've got it cured finally. It's out. And we are just going to use some gem glue to attach it on the top of this harlequin nail. And being that this is made with the gel polish and not acrylic, it is still flexible. So once I get it on there, I will be able to hold those edges down, and they're going to bend and lay flat against my nail. So we're not going to have edges sticking up to get caught on stuff. Whoopsie. And once I get it positioned where I want it, we'll just pop it in there for a cure. And then we will be done. Okay, here we are, the finished set. Well, the lighting is a little dark, but they really are pretty nice and sparkly when you see them in person. If you like them, please give me a like. And if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. I upload new video every Saturday. I really appreciate you guys watching my tutorials, and thank you so much. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.